Oh, we're live.
We're live. We're trying to get the technicalities up. So it
What?
says streaming on YouTube, but the Facebook group is still waiting. But we're gonna get started. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi. These things happen. Imperfections are the
I mean,
perfections.
you would know more than anyone because you have a podcast, you've done this so many years. So I have a guest here that needs no introduction. She is a champion of women. She has interviewed so many incredible people around the world. She has many top podcasts, but most importantly, she is an authentic community builder. I am so happy to
Oh.
have Espree here.
Hi. Excited to be here. I've said this on social and to you directly is it's amazing how committed you are to your community. It's like you are just like, let me empower you. I will make sure I will take you to the top. It's
Well, I
incredible.
think that's how we got connected, right? It's like
Yeah.
your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah.
So the reason why I want to have you on is because we just went live with the podcast episode
Yeah.
for me and you. And I feel like, it was different than what I usually do, which is like, here are the actionable tips. Like, here's how you get featured. And I
Yeah.
really wanted to talk about from someone who is on the other side, who has had all the features, who has had all the things, and you still reject this culture that we're swimming in, which is this culture of more, 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 right? You don't even really
Mhm.
post on Instagram. So can you tell me a little bit more about why you're so allergic to that and like titles and all of that?
It's interesting. I was thinking about this yesterday. I you're right that I do proactively make myself not go on social media, and I have the same dopamine drips and stuff and needs and fears that everybody else has. So what I've been doing is I journal when I feel this need to go on social media, and I write about it immediately. So like if we got off and I felt like checking social, I would go to the notepad in my phone. I'd be like, right now I feel this need. Is it actually how I want to be spending my time? Or is it like a chemical thing that's happening in my brain? And I just
Mm.
like talk through it. So it's like kind of like I bring the subconscious to the conscious. And then after I'm done writing, I'm like, and I'm good. And then sometimes I'm not, and I'll still go. And then I'll go, did that feel good? Is that really how you wanted to spend your time? Like, or did that just have like what's going on in your life that you felt like you needed this thing? And so yeah, I've been trying to emotionally pull back from any um attachment to social. It doesn't mean that I don't want to continue to post vulnerably and that it's not important to like business. I just don't want to do be on social from a place of scarcity or like from a
Mm.
place of like fear that I won't be relevant or whatever goes on for at least for me. I don't want I want it to be because that is a choice I'm making. It's a creative expression, not some dopamine chase going on in my brain.
Yeah. I think it's so hard because in the internet online space and everyone has an online presence, it's all about these numbers. So at what point, like, have you always been like that where you don't want to be online from a scarcity point of view? All this like post 8 times a day, hack
Yeah.
the algorithm. At what point were you like, that's not for me? Or maybe you were always like that.
Mm, well, I was one of the people who brands looked to understand how to be on social media early on. So I think when it started to not become to me is when the term social media guru was created and how like everyone with an iPhone was all of a sudden like a social media guru, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to be associated with that world. And I just started like reflecting on my own behaviors, or I would notice there was one point in my life where I backpacked for 4 months without a computer or phone, and I notice when I'm not on social, I'm very clearly a happier person than when I am on social. And I'm like, well, why would I be making choices that just I consciously know they don't lead to me experiencing more joy?
Yeah.
But I have the same addictions that we all have, so it's just this constant desire to bring my truths to my own consciousness so that I am operating from a truthful place for myself. um But yeah, I think that like the social media guru thing and just noticing that I was feeling unhappy and there was a correlation between how much time I spent, not just on social apps, on my phone, period. Like I notice a core difference when I power off my phone for a few days. And yes,
Mm.
I actually power off my phone never any more than 3 days, because a long time ago I powered off my phone for 1 month, and that is when I learned text messages disappear after 3 days and you'll never know who wrote you.
Oh.
And so now I have such a fear of like missing a text message from a friend or whatever that I always make sure at least to power cycle it on once to make sure the messages come through. Yeah.
But it's also, talk about a radical act of just receiving, right? And just like turning your phone off and just letting go. I think that
Yeah.
as especially women, like we need to learn that. And I'm honestly still learning that. I was so burnt out yesterday before I got on my flight to LA. I had like
Yeah.
5 meetings. I didn't even have time to pack, and I literally just threw everything in my backpack. And my boyfriend was like, you had all day today. You didn't even take a break, and like you'd forgot your Kindle, you forgot your hiking shoes. Like, is it even worth it that you didn't pack properly for this trip that we've been looking forward to, just because you just kept filling your day? And I was at the airport, and I was actually on the phone on another business call as
Yeah.
the gate was closing.
Yeah.
And the lady was like, ma'am, we need you to board the phone. Plain ma'am. And my boyfriend at that point was already in his seat. And I was like, what is this life that I'm leading?
Yeah. Exactly. Totally. But it's
Yeah.
about choice, and I mean, look, like these apps want our attention. Like that's their business. And so I think my favorite, I may have talked about this on the podcast. My favorite blog post is 1,000 True Fans by Kevin Kelly. And it's like
Mm,
any business could succeed with 1,000 true fans. So
yes.
isn't that within all of our ability to personally reach out to 1,000 people? Maybe it will
Yes.
take a year or 2 years, whatever. But the point is, it is actually within our manual proactive ability to find 1,000 people interested in our XYZ thing, as long as our XYZ thing is actually a value and serves a purpose in their life.
Yeah.
And priced accordingly to how much it takes to create the thing, right? So with 1,000 people, do you need to be an influencer on Instagram or on TikTok or YouTube or whatever else it is? And like when we're chasing money, I think some people do chase money because that's just their driver, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when we're chasing money for the sake of chasing money or opportunity, um, just doesn't feel very like fulfilling. I think the true metric for success is joy. And I know I have a lot of work to do in that division. Like I've been going through like a rough time. And so like if I don't feel joyous in my private life, like am I really winning no matter what else
Yeah.
is going on?
Yeah.
Um the one choice that was interesting that I made um that I like sort of regret and also don't regret, it's really confusing, is I had this opportunity with an app, and it was at a time that I was my friend had just passed away and I was feeling really depleted, and I decided not to make the most of the opportunity and instead just watch out for myself and sleep and make sure I'm okay. And it's weird because sometimes I'm like, "Ah, I probably should have made more of that opportunity." But I'm like, "What kind of, like, asinine thought is that? I should have chosen some, like, app over my own mental well-being?" Like, that's so weird. Like, why is that even a conflict in my mind? It's just bizarre, the world we live in.
Yeah, I think what you said about the 1,000 True Fans on the actual podcast episode, it's like, we actually did the math, right? It's like the people who are invested in your vision, they don't need convincing. And
Yeah.
once they're already in your, whatever it is, your universe, they're 5 times more likely to buy from you. And so I've made a conscious decision that instead of just reaching out to everyone, is like serving the people who's in my community, right? And so that's kind of
Mhm.
one way we can reserve our time. And so that's exactly what you said about the 1,000 True Fans, is you don't need 30,000 people. You just need
Right.
500 people and start there. And so I think for a lot of people, when we look at your Instagram, when we look at your following, when we look at your downloads, like I just started my podcast. I don't have that many downloads, but I know that every single day right? If I keep showing up consistently, I'll
Yeah.
be able to reach the people. So what do you have to say for the people who feel like these, they do want to hit a number, it's so far out of reach, they want to get more people into their world? Like, what do you have to say to them to just play that long game?
Yeah. Well, there's 3 things. A direct answer to what you just asked is Will Smith says, "Lay one brick at a time." He was taught that by his father. So just one brick at a time.
Yeah.
Um, I also think that people may be, like, thinking, like you say, I'm gonna keep it true to my community, and some people are like, "Okay, but I don't even have a community. What does the word community even mean? Where do I start?"
Mm,
And look, there is algorithmic content that will spike your followership, your growth. I mean, there just is.
yeah.
Also, a lot of people pay for things. You'll see reports on musicians paying for ads on YouTube to drive their video music views up, and then there's all this controversy about if that's okay or not. Um, Feel free to study what you want to study and do a lot of experiments and see how it works. I'm just saying, like, let's all do our best to not be emotionally addicted as though like the followers and the verifications and all that define our value. And that's where the problem is we feel like, oh, we're not enough, we won't get there. I personally don't desire to be famous. Anything that's kind of like happened in consequence of my work is just in consequence of being like a community person that's heart driven. And like, I didn't seek notoriety, and I still don't seek
Yeah.
notoriety. Um, so I think thinking like, if you're going into this and you're like, okay, how do I even form that beginning community? It's like, well, what do you really care about? Like, this sounds so cliche. It's just like, what do you really care about? What do you want to like solve in someone's life? And I'll give you a personal story because the way I just described it was so boring. Um, So I built the first action sports social network, and I raised money and I did all these amazing things, and I should have won. Like, I was badass, but I had no idea it was badass. So when I raised the money, all the vultures came in wanting a piece of me raising, promising me the world. And because I didn't value myself enough, I thought, oh my God, I need these people or I won't win. Right. I found out later that I don't need those people. What I needed was me, right? And like, I needed faith in myself. And so the reason why I created We Are LA Tech, Women in Tech, any asset I create is because I have such a strong affinity to wanting people, because my own pain point, wanting people to believe in themselves. Like, everything is about, I just want to show you that you're good, like, you can do this. You don't like need me. You don't need any other guru. Like, yes, have mentorship and all this, but understand, let go of what you want to let go and take what you want to take, but don't come from a place of scarcity in making your decision. Like, oh my gosh, I won't win unless I work with her, unless I work with him. Like, no, like, you won't win if you don't work with you. Like, if you don't truly believe in you, right? And so that's the pain point that I'm very committed to, that I feel personally motivated by. So what is that for you? So when you're cultivating whatever it is that you're cultivating at the very beginning, like, what is that thing that you have this personal why, this personal mission for? And then just share that message, and you will in end build community around that, because it's inevitable. You'll reach out to people that match. Maybe you'll use things like Twitter advanced search tool to find people that have that same thing, and you'll reach out to them and you'll form that meaningful relationship one by one. You'll go to Instagram hashtags and you'll communicate with people. All you need to do to build that community of 1,000 people is communicate with something like 10,000 people, right? Because it's like a percentage. I don't know the exact percentage, but a certain percentage will become your customers. So, like, that may take you a year, 5 years, whatever it is that you work out to how many people you could reach out to a day. But as long as you're personally reaching out to people, you'll be fine. Like, followers, knowing how to edit like a Instagram reel, like all it doesn't matter. Like what matters is engagement and genuine human connection. The other stuff, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny because you actually found me, and you have hundreds of pitches that people send you a day. You found me because I recorded a video on how to, I think it was like how to hack Haro or something using
Yeah.
Loom. And
Yeah.
you reached out to me, and like,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, what? Like, so it
It
does,
was so
does
cool.
happen. It does happen. And I want to tell our listeners here, you gave me some good tips about reaching out, right? So
Yeah.
your inbox is flooded. You get so many pitches all day. You
Yeah.
have like a top 1% podcast. What are the pitches that really stand out to you? And what are the ones that are just, you're just like, no.
Yeah. So I have two examples that just happened in the last week or so. I'll start with the negative one first. It just happened yesterday. It was really annoying. It wasn't exactly a pitch. It was more like somebody tried to sell me a service, which I think for the context of this conversation, it applies. So they were trying to sell me a podcast editing service. And they said, we remove the ums and ahs and this and that. And I have a professional editing team. So my response was one line. Did you listen to my podcast? Like, because like if you listen, it was like a whole list of stuff that they do, all of which I don't have those in my show, right? And then they wrote back today with some I think it's a blatant lie. I would have respected the truth, saying, "Oh yeah, it's a very interesting show. Sounds like you have everything covered." And in my head, I'm like, "Sounds like you're lying." Like like I would have had a lot more respect for like, you know what, like I'm a new founder and I love podcasting, love editing. You're right. I did find a list of podcasters and I did a mail merge to reach out to a bunch of people. I definitely didn't want to come off insincere. I'm just doing the best I can. I don't know. I didn't Google who this person is but I would have really appreciated sincerity and I would have responded to that. But the bullshit that was in my inbox was like a waste of everybody's day. The thing that was amazing. So Gloria's right. I get a zillion pitches. And it's really surprising that out of all the pitches I get, I've had, I think, so I've been podcasting since 2013, 2014, because I started producing in 2013 and it aired in 2014. Like, I think I have 3 emails, 3 pitches. So that's like almost what, 10 years of like 8, 9 years of and 3 pitches. One was a couple weeks ago. Something like the headline was like something about Steven Tyler, which is very specific to me because how I introduce my podcast is inspired by Steven Tyler and wrestling. So you would have had to truly listen to the show and not know specifically like which you would have to know. And so the headline had Steven Tyler, which really caught my attention. And then the inside had talked about how she'd been a fan for years and talked about the different episodes and then shared a picture of Steven Tyler because she had like met Steven Tyler randomly on the street like a while ago. Like it was very personable and really impressed. So I immediately, I didn't just say yes to her. I also social shared her company. Like so she works for a company. So her company, I wanted them to know how effective she is at I'm always about empowering people. So I wanted them to know how effective she is at her job. So on Twitter, I tagged the company she worked for and I made a mention like with her, so impressed with your marketing coordinator. She did an amazing job.
Wow.
Da, 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 da. I wanted her to get kudos at her job, So
It's amazing.
that one was amazing. But the thing that the all 3 have in common, one was the weakest of the 3, but the thing that the 3 have in common was they were very personable. The weakest of the 3 was like, I have a lot of like mailing list traction, so you should have me on because I can do all this for you. I think it's a nice sentiment to say, here's what I could do for you. But I think there's a slight tweak of don't feel like a sense of entitlement that of course I'm going to say yes because I want the thing you have, That one I didn't have on either. It just I remember it, so that's why I mention it. But I do think that that's a pro thing of like how can you serve the person that you're writing, like and not make it about you, but also not with an air of entitlement from like an organic place and yeah, I think in this digital culture, even Gloria yesterday, a friend of mine in the tech world, I was coordinating something and he responded to my Twitter DM. It had to be like 4 or 5 hours later, and his response was like, sorry to keep you waiting. Sorry, like, to wait or whatever." I'm like, "Waiting? It's been like 4 hours, like, come on." Like, "It's fine if you responded 3 days from now." Like, what are these expectations we all have in our digital culture today of, like, you have to respond in 2 seconds. You have to give your entire life away to a screen. Like, all these entitlements. Like, no, we need to create the life that feels best for us inside of our bodies.
Yeah, I'm trying to work on that myself because I have this really bad habit where I feel like I need to respond to everyone all the time. And my boyfriend who's here is like shaking his head because some of the things that I need to work on.
Yeah.
And I realize that when I'm doing that and I'm changing my energy and my pace to match that person's scarcity, because that's really where it comes from,
Yeah.
I'm all of a sudden at their level, right? And feeding off of their projection,
Mhm.
scarcity, whatever. And so I'm learning, I'm actually actively practicing to like let it breathe a little bit and not be like, I have to answer in 5 minutes. So hopefully one day I'm going to work up to you where I can just close my phone for 3 months. That is, I applaud you. That is amazing. I think I'll start with like, maybe I'll shut off my phone at night, little
Yeah.
baby steps. But this, I just feel like as we build our business, this like, and we have families and we're, like women, we'd like to take care of everyone.
Yeah.
We just keep giving, giving and giving. And it's just, we got to stop. And you built
Totally.
an entire business, an entire empire, and you're so humble about it without giving into that. And you don't post on Instagram. You have a lot of followers. You have tapped into any room you want to be in, but you're very selective and more intentional about like, yeah, I'm invited to this place, but I don't really want to speak on there. Like, and I love that because that's you reclaiming your power. That's amazing
Yeah.
to say no, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I also think that like none of us are perfect, meaning, I have a powerful week and then I have an off week. And I think it depends like when you catch a person. Like Casey Neistat, the famous YouTuber, he was like, Twitter's controlling my life. So he took it off all of his like devices. And I think since then he's put it all back on. So if you caught him in the week where he took them all off, that week he was the guy who took all the devices, and then the following month or whatever, then he had, so just like everybody else, like I am don't have life figured out whatsoever, but what I have figured out for myself is that I want my barometer of success to be joy and inner peace. And I'm not there yet. I'm a work in progress, but I'm shifting that. So like when I get all angsty about digital validation, I'm like, is that my barometer for success? No, it is not. What is joy and inner peace? Am I doing the things today that make me feel joyous and make me feel ease inside my body? Huh. Maybe not. Maybe I just ate a thing of donuts. Did I enjoy the donuts or was that emotional eating? Like just really doing this ongoing check-in to make sure that I'm okay. So yeah. Um yeah, I don't even remember the original question, but I hope that was
Yeah.
useful.
I think that's so true in terms of validation because even today I get these flood of DMs like, oh, we're going to feature like top 5 entrepreneurs. The fee is $2,000. And I'm like,
Oh,
if
those
I
are
wanted
always
to
a
do
no.
pay, yeah, if I wanted to do pay to play PR, I would have done it like years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, the exercise of like knowing your story and knowing what the value is and pitching it to a real journalist who's not going to
Yeah.
accept money, that is the intentionality behind it. Is it validation? Maybe, but it's coming from a place of knowing that you have a message because otherwise journalists would be like, just go buy an ad, right? And you know this because
Yeah.
you're a journalist, you're not someone that's just taking all these kind of advertisers, on your show. So that's what I love about
Yeah.
what you've done. And I think as the like the line between like blogger and influencer and journalist gets blurred, it's so important for people to understand like who they're speaking to, and like that there's still value in like journalism, and it's not just
Yeah.
like, people who want free products. So I always say,
Yeah.
like, don't ever pay to play. Like, do what you need to do to really get your story super dialed in.
Mhm. I mean, like, it's like this catch-22, Gloria, from a PR standpoint, because, like, okay, when I did an article on, I think he was like the 3rd employee of Indiegogo, and I was like, "How are the Indiegogo campaigns so successful?" And he's like, "Well, first you have to reach out to, like, your personal network and have a date that the personal network contributes, so that when the people that you don't know come, they're like, 'Oh, yeah, it's worth it.'" Nobody wants to be first, right? So I feel like there's all these opportunities that I've seen my peers take take action on. Like, I believe you could, like, pay to be a contributor writer to Forbes and Entrepreneur via, like, I'm not sure how it works, but I know it's possible. And like, I do know some business associations that that's the, like, feature benefit. Like, if you pay for their annual membership, you can be a contributor. Whatever the point is, there's not necessarily something like, the digital space is, like, crazy. So, like, if you wanna form that foundation for yourself and you think the best way to form that foundation is to, like, join one of these, I literally don't know which one because I haven't done it, but I know it exists. So join one of these business associations to be a contributing writer so that you could start to build your personal profile, and then a bunch of other things that I know exist. You could totally do that with intention. Like, I know most people aren't gonna believe that I'm even, like, worth listening. Just anything that you do, I request from the universe that you do with heart and authenticity and value. So even if you do decide that these, like, pay to play opportunities are the fast track you wanna take, just do it from a different place than most. Do it from a very, like, act as if this is your opportunity to really deeply, meaningfully help people for a long time, not just like, I want this thought leadership, like, which is why most people do it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah.
Give away all your secret sauce, give away your frameworks, give away something that's actionable,
Mhm.
100%.
Do you disagree with that? Do you think that, because you're the professional in the space, do you think people shouldn't do those, like, for, like, where you pay the business association, and then you get to be a contributing writer
Yeah.
for these
Yeah,
business
I
magazines?
think that's different. I think that's like coming from you. So that's kind of like media that you put out. But being vetted by a journalist and knowing how to get through to them, that is a lifelong exercise that's always going to pay dividends, right? Because you're going to know
Mhm.
exactly how to connect with somebody. You're going to know exactly how to give value in a short amount of time. You know how
Yeah.
to be really concise with your message. So I have a lot of friends who pay thousands of dollars to be in the Forbes Council. That's their
Oh, is that what it
revenue.
is?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I don't count that as like PR, that like success that I've gotten for my clients, So everything
Yeah.
that I do is like literally like a journalist that you can't pay for. But it's getting more and more murky, right? There's affiliate commissions, there's all these things. But I
Mhm.
just know, like, for me as a consumer, when I'm really looking at someone's mission and heart and values, if I see that it's advertising content, I'm just not going to read it, right? And
Yeah.
so, if you're doing like a gift guide, or if you have like something that's a product, like, that's okay. But there is a difference between like reading about the founder and their mission and value, and then just like being, a product play. So I think there's time and room for both.
I think another great question to ask yourself, not you, Gloria, but everyone listening, is, do you want to be an influencer, or are you looking to, like, build a business? Because if you're
Yes.
trying to be an influencer, yeah, like, go do the TikTok dances or whatever. Like,
Hmm.
um, but if you're trying to build a business, but all of a sudden you're caught up in, like, this influencer kind of activity, is that because you really need that for your business, or is that your ego?
Hmm.
I met this businessman on my We Are LA Tech podcast. He has 0 social media. Like, he is astronomically successful, self-made. Like, I couldn't, and he has, like, a tech company. I'm like, "How in the world were you able to build this, like, ginormous tech company and have no," he's like, "It just doesn't enhance my life." He's like, "My friends keep trying to create fake accounts for me, and I just keep deleting them.
I love that. And it's,
Yeah.
I, from my team, it's like, you should be on TikTok, you should be on Pinterest, you should be. And I'm like, I cannot. Like, I have limited energy and I cannot just keep like replicating myself in all these platforms. I love
Yeah.
doing a podcast. So I'm going to focus on that. I don't care if I have 50 listeners or 100 listeners. If my message is aligned, I'm going to attract more people who also should be in my tribe. So you know that more than anyone. You started your podcast with 0 listeners. Now you have millions of downloads. So
Um, I wonder if this is okay to say, but like at the end of the day, you have an effective PR. I feel like even calling it a PR agency is like not even strong enough because like you create direct relationships for people to get press, and I feel like a PR agency doesn't usually deliver anything. So what do you like? What do you call your business? Would you call it a PR agency, or
no
how do you?
way. It's
Yeah,
it's 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 really it's really I no one I don't see, first of all, I don't see anyone doing PR this way, but
yeah,
it's really like giving the power of narrative back to the
to the
founder, so
people.
that,
Yeah,
because I think the era of like paying someone like thousands of dollars for them to tap on their friends' shoulders and go into fancy networking dinners,
yeah,
I'm not sure that that whole like Mad Men type of, I don't think that that's really like necessary anymore. And I think the everyday business owner deserves to pitch and get featured without having to rely on someone else's
yeah,
relationships, right? So that's really my whole thing, is like, anyone deserves to pitch because journalism is not dead.
yeah,
Journalists aren't like, let me see, do I know you? Have you treated me to dinner? No, I'm not going to feature you.
yeah.
Like, no, like everyone in my community is like unknown. They don't know anybody. They're not
Right.
giving them gifts, but they're able to be featured. It's just all about your message. And it's just,
Yeah.
it's a framework. It's a way to make sure that you can draw a bridge to somebody else.
Because what I was thinking is like for you, this notion of you have to be on TikTok and Instagram and all these things. At the end of the day, the way your business works is a certain amount of people hire you to, get them this press. And that is your business for the most part. So as long as you have enough people meeting your metric, like you're good. The excess is you're giving to the community. You create so many resources for people to do it on their own if they don't want to hire anyone. So here's I don't know, we'll call it community. I was about to use the word philanthropic. We're going to say community content. So you have community content that just helps people. And then of those people that are like, no, 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 I don't want to do it myself. I much prefer delegate this to you and you're the expert and let you do it. And you don't need to be an influencer you don't need like 1,000 million people like following you everywhere. I don't think it proves that your skill set is that much better. If anything, I would recommend to people like if you don't want to be in social and you don't really like social, delete your social accounts, and then it's a non-issue. Then no one's looking you up with 5 followers because like if it's not important to you, have a website. The number one thing I would have for credibility is a website that has testimonials on it. That's the main credibility. And you know what? Even LinkedIn, on your LinkedIn, getting people to what's it called in the bottom right, like, things about you, that's great credibility. Other than that, don't put yourself through things that you don't wanna be in.
Yeah, 100%. So, on that note, we're wrapping up the year. How do we want to end our year? How do we want to give our energy to next year? And I think that is a perfect place to just regroup, is how are you intentional with the way that you're posting? I think the reason why, getting onto like a magazine or being interviewed is that it allows you to not have to like DM people for 5, 6 hours a day, right? Because it's like you've already done the work. So, it's kind of a top down approach. And I think it just makes it easier. I'm all about working smarter, not harder. But it takes work, right? You have to understand like how to draw a bridge of connection to someone like you, for example, right? Or someone like me. So
Totally. And just
I really
remember,
appreciate that.
remember your intuition is your oracle. Like, I always
Yes.
say that. Your intuition is your oracle. Don't be me building my sports company thinking I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Remember, like, you have your compass inside of your body to know what is best for your specific path, and just tune into that and seek out the mentorship and guidance accordingly. But don't come from a
Hmm.
place of scarcity. Come from I got me, so I'm good, and everything else is just a compliment to me.
So I'm worth it. Yes. Yes. So
Yeah.
much of it is mindset. So how can people find you? How can people connect with you if they want to learn more about the world of Esprit?
Sure. I'm at Espree Devora on all social, and or you could email me espree@hey.com. So that's ESPREE at HEY.com.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being so generous to just give your email out.
Yeah. You know
You're
what's funny,
amazing.
Gloria, is most people like don't use it, which is fed. Yeah, I'm sure you've experienced the same thing where like you'll say that you'll be supportive of someone, but then people are too afraid to reach out because of whatever, self-limiting belief is happening in their
Yeah.
head.
Well, that's why they need to
Always
watch
reach
the
out.
master class and use the CPR framework.
Can you please share that with everybody one more time? Because you create so many great resources for the community. I want to put you on the spot. Can you just share where to find your resources for the
Well,
community?
definitely this group is amazing. This group is I do Facebook lives every Friday, and people are like, "Why are you not charging for this Facebook community?" And I'm like, "I want to keep it free," So that's the Small Biz PR Facebook group. You're here now. It's getfeaturednow.com. If you want to watch the masterclass, where I think like thousands of people have watched it, I tell you exactly what the methods are, how you can structure your sentences, how to do the bullet points, what the email looks like. Um, Go to gloriachalpr.com/masterclass. And by the way, I never worked at an agency. I don't have any journalist contacts. So I had to just pick up the damn phone and cold call until I was so sick and tired of being rejected. And I started to pick up on patterns on what would make me get rejected a little bit less. And I put it all into this framework. And so that is how I do it. And I think for people who don't have the network or resources, or who's not in the Cool Kids Club, because I'm definitely not in the Cool Kids Club, this method works, and so it's allowing you to not have to be in any kind of Cool Kids Club. So go watch it.
I'm definitely not in the cool kids club. I'm such a dork.
You're beyond cool. You're authentic. And
Oh,
that's badass.
thanks.
Thank you
It
so
was
much, Espree.
nice
I
meeting
appreciate it.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.